Hey, we're Saints. Father Chris here, Father Greg here. Welcome to our crucifixional live stream. Glad to have you beautiful people with us. Really quickly, before we start talking about family and fatherhood, I want to announce to you all that we have accepted our first student in our master's program. I know it's exciting. As I mentioned before, the Warrior Saints Academy, in collaboration with Kairos University, can now offer accredited master's degrees, and we're going to focus on leadership. So if you are interested in any way, go to our website, check it out. There's info there. That being said, we are on the cusp of Father's Day. So Father Greg and Father Chris, who are both fathers and fathers, are going to talk today about fatherhood and really about family and leaving a legacy, which I guess, as I jumble those words, family and legacy becomes famacy. All right. Anyways, that's what we're talking about. What do you think?
Legacy?
No. Let's talk about family. Yeah. And how do you establish a solid family? Because it's like the struggle out there, right? People are we see a lot of it. I know you do too, Abuna, is are my kids going to be okay?
Yeah.
Are they going to be safe? Are we going to, crumble in all of the economic, struggles that are out there? Many people can't buy a house. Many people, just on and on the list goes, the fear, the doubt, just the fears. So anyways, let's talk about it.
Let's talk about it. You got to be deliberate. So something that you told me a while ago, that your kids brought up to you as a conversation starter has stuck with me, and I use it all the time. What is one thing that your parents did with you that you used that you were happy to use? What is one thing that you deliberately did not use, or however they ask the question? I talk about it with premarital classes when we talk about communication. Every family has its own communication patterns, their own system of communication, how they use communication, how they do well with it or don't do well with it. There's a system that works for every single family, and every single family system is a combination of the two families that they came from. So my wife and I got married. We came from two families. We're blending whatever, good, bad, however we want to do it to make our communication style for our family. We're making deliberate choices as how we're going to do it. But the house that she came from was a product of her parents' houses that they came from. My parents came from two houses. It's a product of that. And it becomes this family tree that's a communication tree that you have to understand what's going on there when you're setting your foundation, when you are building that, because communication becomes a point of that foundation. It becomes a central way. It's how we are able to get information across, how we're able to transmit things, how we're able to actually pass things down to our children. So we got to be really clear about understanding why certain communication bothers us, why it doesn't, and then how we're going to do it.
So I guess my follow-up question to you would be, when talking about communication, because I fully know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Allie and I decided that we are also a blend of our two families, and we took the good and left the bad and that kind of stuff. Not that that any of our families are bad.
Those are just the facts of life.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. I didn't do that on purpose. Well done. So we took the good and the bad, and we did our own thing. We were deliberate.
Yeah.
How do you? What are some specifics? Can you talk to that about? So
I can have a real fun conversation about that, and my wife hopefully won't cream me for sharing this story. When we first got married, we went to Target. We bought a bookshelf. We were carrying that bookshelf into the condo that we lived in. She was across the threshold. I was not even yet across the threshold. And she said something to me that I really did not like. And I gave her a look that she really did not like. All of a sudden, her half of the bookshelf that was already in the condo was on the floor. She ran into the bedroom and she shut the door. And I'm like, I guess I'm carrying this the rest of the way myself. And this is even before we tried to pass the IKEA test of relationships, where you see if you can put furniture together. We then had to figure out what was going to happen next, because the follow-up to that communication pattern and figuring that out is also conflict resolution. because when the communication patterns break down, it leads to conflict, which then leads to the need for conflict resolution. And families have their own styles of conflict resolution as well. My family, having two parents that were counselors, was group therapy for every family conversation for the majority of my life. Her family was much more reserved in how they would use that communication. So she went into the room, shut the door, and I came in and I wanted to resolve the conflict right then. And she did not want to have any of it. So then we had to figure out, when tensions were lower, we talked about that example. What upset you that I said? What upset you that I looked?
Right.
And how did that all work?
Yeah.
And then we could analyze it and then decide, all right, moving forward, I know that after we have a little bit of that, you need space, but you also understand that I need to talk it out and clear the problem quickly. So let's meet somewhere in the middle, and then this is how we're going to do things. And now we're doing that with our kids.
Great.
Or at least trying to.
I see in that, Father Greg, the beauty of that is, and it's a difficult thing for many people, is to actually, you have to, in some cases, in many cases, if not all cases, force yourself to talk about the specific things and to do so honestly. Like, how many of us can just, play the ostrich and bury our head in the sand and just hope it'll go away? In my communication with my bride, sometimes we do. If they're minor, we're just like, whatever, it goes away. But that's because in the beginning, like you guys did, is we talked about the specifics, the gross things about it. Yeah. I mean, and communication it's essential to any relationship, as you well know. So it's great. I think that's a great starting point, is to, to really, and communication it takes effort and practice and learning and study and repeat and failure and success. It's not that we are, born out of the womb great communicators.
Right.
Some may be better than others for sure, but we got to work at it.
Yeah.
All right. Very cool. Another thing I think that was interesting, and it kind of is about communication. It dovetails. Aaron said to us, talk about the family lore. And I was like, oh, what a great way to say things, the family lore. But she used the image where, every family has its stories, right? She goes, I could tell you 5 of mine. They happen every Thanksgiving. I mean, that's a great way to talk about it.
It's true.
I would say this, and I'll just get out of your way again, is that there needs to be a deliberate process, and around the table, I would say too, right? To do so around the table, not just Thanksgiving, but with your children as you have them, about here's what our family values are. Here's what we think about. Here's how we behave. If a situation, arose, this is how we should respond, and that kind of stuff. And so again, it's deliberate, which is a good word, in teaching the next generation about our family system in response to, or our family system as proactive in, and so on.
Family lore becomes parable. It becomes the stories that you use to explain how things are happening and how they do happen. In our family, my wife floored me. So my sister asked her to be the maid of honor or matron of honor at her wedding. And during her speech, she talked about my mother. And what she said about my mother was fascinating, beautiful. I mean, it brought me to tears, but she's never met my mother.
I was going to say she didn't even know her.
She didn't know her. But because of the family lore, because of the stories, because that's how she has access to know who my mother is. And the same is true now for my children. Like, it was actually interesting. I heard her talking to my daughter one day about my mother. And I'm like, well, how the heck you know that? Like, but, and it was accurate, and it was beautiful. And it was just this wonderful passing on through story of these are core values that are important to our family. These are things that matter to us. These are things that are who we are. And you're now part of that.
Right.
And let's start building your own stories. And what's really fun is my kids have now started telling stories, as they're able to, but they want to tell their stories. They want to be part of that. So we sit down at the table and my daughter looks at me and says, so how was your day today, Baba? And I'm like, huh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's pretty fun. She's something.
It's great. I want to make sure that we don't skip which I think everything you said, and I do the same, but I don't want us to overlook that, not for our sake, because we do this, but to make sure we share in this pod, that the lore that we share is that our families are men and women of God.
Yeah.
Because that's what's important for us as warrior saints, right? Like, there's that great verse in Joshua 24. It's at the end of the book, right? Where they've gone through, their conquest. Joshua is about to die.
Yeah.
And he's telling everybody, all the house of Israel, like, you can worship other gods. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about serving the Lord. And they're like, no, we want to serve the Lord. And he goes, no, you won't do it. You're going to make a mess. I mean, he just calls them out. He says, you can either abandon him or worship other gods, whatever. But for me and my house, we will serve the Lord.
Yep.
And so Joshua makes this declarative statement that we, the Joshuaites, whatever, Joshua's house, we will serve the Lord. And so I took that, and Allie took that as something we needed to impart into our children, specifically because that was imparted to us, right?
Without question.
I mean, I was never allowed to skip church.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not because, well, someday you're going to be a priest. That's just who my family is.
Yep.
And there were days that I didn't want to go to church. Even now, sometimes I'm tired. I don't want to go to church, but I could never do that. I could never just blow off church, even if I'm on vacation, because it gets in me.
Yeah.
And that is something that we need to impart to our children. And I say this, look, forgive the boast, but very often parents say to us, how do we make sure that our kids don't abandon the faith when they are old? And the answer is absolutely, you cannot ensure that, because they will become adults, right? Like all of us, and they have to make their own decisions.
Right.
But I can promise you this, if you don't instill in them the sense of dedication, commitment to the church, I guarantee you they will abandon, right?
Yeah.
And I brag, I say, forgive the boast. Both of my children who are no longer children are away at school. They're both away at college, and they go to church on their own. And they don't do so because they're Father Chris's kids, and they don't do so because it's an obligation. They go to church because that's just what they do. It's in our family. So it was given to me, and I gave that to them.
Right.
Now, will they continue to do that when they get married and have their own kids? I don't know. I can't force it. I can't ensure it. But I gave them all the tools and everything that I could, so they knew.
You've built a foundation.
Yeah.
And they get to build on that foundation when they have their own kids and as they're going to do it.
However they so choose, but right.
Right. And that's all that we can do as parents. That's our job. And it's really, because we're on the cusp of Father's Day, it's really the job of fathers to lay that foundation and to set what that foundation is going to look like. I joke all the time that we went to church because my dad was the priest, but we went to church because that's what we did. That's who we were. That's who we are as a family.
I can't quote it, and forgive me for interrupting, but the data out there on, you could find it at the Pew Research Institute, whatever Pew is called, and I'm sure it's elsewhere. But the data shows overwhelmingly that kids go to church.
Right.
I'm losing my words, forgive me, but if a parent didn't take them, it's a very low percentage. If mom took them, it's a little higher percentage. If dad takes them, it's an even higher percentage, overwhelmingly.
Yeah.
And if both parents go, it's like
through the charts.
Right.
It's like 74% or something ridiculous when it's both parents
Right.
taking the going as a family.
Right.
And I laugh all the time when parents say, my kids don't want to be in church. I'm like, because you don't want to be in church.
Yeah, I know. It's like,
you don't bring them to church. And they're not going to, I don't bring them because they can't, they don't behave well in church. Well, they're never going to learn how to behave in church if they're not exposed to being forced to behave in church.
Yeah.
Not forced, but having to be in church means that you have to learn how to behave in church. And then you find little tools and you find little tricks that you can use to make sure that they're doing things differently, that they're engaged differently. I could talk about that for hours. But if you're not bringing them,
right. What do you expect?
You've got no shot. Yeah. And they're never going to stay because you've told them for their whole lives, church doesn't matter.
Right.
So I did like a very non-scientific study at a parish I used to work at. And it was looking at when people arrived for divine liturgy. And the generation that had Sunday school that started at the exact same time as divine liturgy were always on time for divine liturgy, because that was when they were used to showing up. The generation that used to go into Sunday school from 9:30 to 10:30 and then go into liturgy at 10:30 never showed up at liturgy before 10:30. And the generation that went from 9:15 to 10:15 never showed up before 10:15 for liturgy as adults, because as children, they were taught that nothing important happened until those points. You can't.
Yeah, no,
you can't learn that.
And you said the word forced and then hedged on it. No, I don't want to say forced. I'm going to hedge back on you and say, yeah, you have to force the kids. Like I was forced. And again, I don't mean in an abusive way where you beat them with a stick. But, the human brain, which I've been studying a lot, always defaults to negativity and ease. Because as we've evolved over the centuries, it's self-preservative, right?
Yeah.
Like I say negative, like you're walking in the woods and you hear a noise. Ooh, is that a lion that's going to eat me, right? Like, I mean, it's about self-preservation. And ease, because the brain is always trying to conserve energy, because it's the highest, it's the organ in the body that burns the most energy. So it's trying to conserve. And so, yes, we'll always default to comfort and ease. I would skip church. I'm a priest. I'm a pastor of this parish. Like if I could sleep in, I would, right? But I was forced to combat that, default into negativity and ease. And it taught me that there are, bless you, there are values, some things are more valuable than that preservation, right? Like otherwise, now that we don't live in the forest and have to worry about lions, at least most of us, I can expend the energy, right?
Right.
So get your butt up and go to church. Well, that has to be, as to your point about the 10:15, 9:15, all that, it has to be taught, and that's taught against our protestations. Like all kids are, like, I don't want to go, right? I mean, so I say that to our beautiful people to make sure that they're not afraid to force their kids to go.
Yeah.
And as you also said, sorry, now I'm spewing, there's no way that they will learn how to deal with it unless they're exposed to it, right?
Exactly.
I mean, for sure. This is Psalm 78, which we're going to do a lot of work on in the future. But it's like in Psalm 78, it's I think verse 3, the things, tell, your kids of the laws and the gospel of the Lord, things that our fathers have taught us.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what verse 3 says. Right?
Yeah. It's fascinating.
Yeah.
And it's important because it's the fathers that are teaching. It's Father's Day. You have to lead by example. How many families do we know where the moms bring the kids to church?
Yeah.
And as the kids get older, the girls keep coming to church, but the guys drop off.
Yeah.
Because they've learned for their whole lives that church is something that guys don't do. That's something that the women do. And they bring the kids until they're of a certain age. Then the men don't come, right? That's not what is there. It's things our fathers have taught us. Psalm 78 is very clear. You have to teach them the fear of the Lord. You have to teach them what that means. Now, the reason I hedged on the word forced is not about forcing them to come, but specifically about forcing them how to behave in church. Because there's this mentality and embarrassment that goes on about you have to sit there and be quiet. And kids are always told, be quiet, be quiet, be quiet, be quiet. In church, church becomes this foreign thing. I want kids to be vocal in church. I don't want them to be obnoxious.
Yeah.
Like if the kid's screaming its head off because it's hungry or it's hurt or whatever, take them out for a few minutes, then bring them back in. Fine. But in church, we're called to make a joyful noise. And having, as you always say, having our kids in church, making noise, being joyful, being exuberant, being excited to be there, that's a beautiful thing that we want to foster. Because now that we force them to be there, and once they are excited to be there after they finally get there, then how do we keep that growing so that eventually, as they learn what it means for them to be full participants liturgically, how to, if they're constantly being told to quiet, then be quiet.
Right.
It's always a spectator sport, and it never becomes something that's in them.
Yeah, no, that's an interesting thought. I mean, because I was always taught to be quiet, and I actually like quiet in the church. I don't mean, pin drop silence type of quiet. But, it just helps you pray and focus more. But the truth of it is, at least for us as Orthodox Christians, our worship is alive.
Yeah.
In some sense, we're not, no offense to other denominations, but we're not rigid and stiff. I mean, it is a little chaotic in a beautiful sense.
Yeah.
Because it's a living, breathing thing. Yeah, that's cool. I didn't think about that. I'm not sure I wanted to say that out loud, so people are going to start screaming and yelling at church. Well, Father Greg said. No.
I don't want them screaming and yelling. But I also, I want them to sing along. I don't care if their singing along is off key.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And if they're singing alongs off key and you look at the kid and say, don't sing, but that's a whole nother story for a whole nother day.
I got it. Yeah. All right. Interesting. I guess maybe, we could go on and on, but as we transition to Father's Day this weekend, I do think that that men out there who are going to be and already are fathers, that there's got to be an understanding that it is your duty to teach. You are not to be friendly with your kids. You are not to be friends. You may be friendly,
right?
But your duty is didactic. I've noticed something with my girls, and they're both fierce, and neither one of them need us anymore at this point. We need them, I think, but they call their mother. They're both away at college, and they don't call me as often as they call their mother. And, they call her, and I listen to their conversations. They're whining and complaining and, this one, or they're sharing good news, this happened, or, whatever it may be. And a lot of times I hear, Father, their kids don't call me anymore. And I'm like, dude, I don't want my girls to call me. Yeah. And here's why. Because they call me when they have a problem that they need fixed. And so the fact that of course, obviously I want to talk to my children. Don't misunderstand. Please don't misunderstand. But the idea that I'm driving at is that when they're good, I don't hear from them.
Right.
And I love that because I always want them to be good. And I also know that that's not life 100% of the time. But my point being, I have no insecurities that I need my kids to call me to make. No, I'm thrilled when they don't, because it means they're out there conquering the world, living their best lives. And so that leads to my point about fatherhood being, you are the great fixer.
Yep.
Daddy fixes things that no one else can. You know what I'm saying? And again, It's not, in absolutes. Your number one function should be to teach and to help fix things, but by doing so in a didactic way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You said something really fun. You don't need your kids.
Yeah.
If you need your kids to need you, then that's a you problem. And you got to get through that quick. And you want to train your kids to not need you.
Yeah.
This neediness that parents feel, like you don't have kids so that they can do what you want them to do and be like your little minions running around doing whatever.
If you have to say, I want you to want me, or I need you to need me,
then you've lost already.
Yeah, I did.
But good. I'm begging you. I'm begging you. Please don't need your kids to need you.
That's so good. I hope somebody got that.
I do too.
I couldn't help it. I didn't want to interrupt you.
There was a 2x4 though that we slapped him across the face with. So if they didn't get it, I don't know how.
So funny.
I don't know what they
I always
would get.
talk about like the 3-second rule. Like you let persons finish their conversation before you interrupt. But I was like, I'm gonna explode.
I gotta do it.
Anyways.
All right, great stuff today. Keep watching.
We really love you people. We have lots of problems, I guess. Anyways, yeah, keep watching. Great stuff. Thanks, Father. I appreciate it. Happy Father's Day to everyone out there. As I said at the start of the episode, we can issue master's degrees, real master's degree, accredited master's degrees, and we're going to focus on leadership. So if you're interested, visit warriorsaints.org. We are not taking every application. Like I said, we finally accepted our first one because it's, there's a lot to it. But we'd love to talk with you about it. Also, this summer, we are going to do a reading challenge. So there are two free resources on our website I want you to look at. The first is the starter questions. One of the things that Father Greg talked about in this episode was having conversations, teaching your children. And one of the most sacred places to do so, I believe, is around the table. And so we created a list of 78 starter questions that you can download free. You'll see it. It's on there. It's on the bottom, isn't it? Somewhere down there. It's on the bottom of the homepage, but it's linked all over. Put your email in. We'll send to you this list of 78, and they're great questions. They're not like, how was school? They're starter questions. The second is a reading challenge this summer. We are going to do family-focused reading. Read together as a family. So we put together a reading challenge there for 6 weeks. Check it out. Love you. Happy Father's Day on Sunday, which, by the way, we will also celebrate Orthros and Liturgy at 9 and 10 a.m. respectively, as always. Love you, beautiful people. We'll be back, and as always, keep walking on the way of the warrior saint.